Hello, fellow bugs. Welcome to Purple Titk and a series about lessons learned in the journey of my project car Miata, specifically what to and not to do. This series starts with me having no knowledge of cars or working on them, to eventually building race engines, custom wiring harnesses, doing engine swaps, and even doing a rebuild title process on this car and others. For more details on what I have done and learned since, smash that bell, subscribe, eat some grass, like, and comment. Let me know what you would like to see more of. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy. But yeah, I went ahead and put the old clutch back in. It was fine. There was really nothing wrong with the stock clutch. I still have it in the car to this day. Here's with the DIY cooling reroute, and you can see this is actually a Kia Cephia neck with my temperature here, and I just RTV'd it and put it on. And yeah, I put the engine back together, and then I put it back in the car. See, I was putting it on, and yeah, here's what it looks like with all the accessories all ready to go, and it fit in, it went in, looked good, and then here it is on the outside. I put the engine back in. It's still not drivable really, but put it out there. Here I have my friend's Miata, the one with the red one that I showed earlier that I started painting gray. Since they have an engine, we were going to build one, so we got these forged rods from someone locally on Facebook that was selling them, and got the same D&J pistons that I normally do, and assembled them with the same D&J type of rings, and overall they came out really well. We painted the block a nice orange, and I'll show you, but here are the pistons built. Yeah, so I went ahead and got the engine bay put together. Here's a soft top on it. So since then, since the car's been in the garage for this whole time, I haven't really taken it out. It took a while for me to. I had to let it sit outside with the soft tops for it to actually stretch enough so we can pull it over the roof again. But it came out really well. The soft top was really good. And then for the thermostat, I actually drilled a couple holes on it because the little bubble wasn't really letting the radiate or the coolant through, so it was getting stuck, and I had to take that apart back and forth because the coolant wasn't really flowing. And then I flushed the whole engine with a hose back and forth, just circulating it to kind of let all the old stuff out. Yeah, so then I did distilled water and I did the radiator flush. And here's the first time really I drove the car after I modified it. I drove it just like this to my local gas station. I filled the car up with just regular and then drove it back home. And back to my friend's Miata. Here's so I painted the block orange. We started putting the pistons in. There's us putting it in. Yeah, and it came out really good. This time I made sure to put RTV on the caps or the plugs as we were putting them in. And then we painted his engine bay gray, so it looked really nice. Had to primer it and do this. We're trying to do the same type of wire tuck and everything, but this time not to the extent of taking everything out from the inside, just focus on the engine bay. And then I had a really bad thing happen to my car. So we were doing some testing and it was getting pretty hot, and the next day I figured, okay, I'm gonna do an oil change now, since we just ran it for the first, so what, we broke the engine in, let me do an oil change, see if there's any metal in there, see how it is. And you guys can see what came out, and this was absolutely heartbreaking. All the work that I had put into that first engine that I had built, this is what came out of it. It just and if you guys don't know what you're looking at mixed coolant and oil. Somehow I blew the head gasket or something, and yeah, this part was very hard, and you can see the bubbles in here from the coolant, and this is what it looked like when it came out. And then I'm like, okay, back the engine goes. So I took the engine out again and I laid it out in the garage, and I'm gonna have to rebuild this whole thing again. And take in mind, this whole time I've been working full time, and and going to school full time. So finding the time to put the engine in the garage and take the car and do all this is very difficult. So I took the engine apart. This time I didn't have an engine stand because that was my friend's and it's at my friend's house. So I went ahead, I took it apart on the floor. I laid it all out, and I went ahead, I took the head off, and I think the fault was just those grooves that the machine shop had put originally, and yeah, so I sent it back off to a shop to get a nice new mirror clean finish on it, and they did a really good job, and they were telling me how bad the old finish was. And here it is after I laid it all out and before I started cleaning it. And I will say the hardest part of doing any kind of engine rebuild is always just cleaning it all out, just getting rid of all the old RTV, all the old seals, all the old gunk. And yeah, even though these ones aren't that old because I had previously rebuilt it, it's still a big hassle to kind of do all that work. And here you can see the water pump, which I guess this is some cheap Chinese pump that I had used because this one was brand new when I installed it, but it just got rusted. It has this orange goop and stuff all over it, so I figured I'm just gonna stick with the cast iron Gates one, I believe. So that's the one I've been rocking since. And here you can see what I'm talking about, those grooves that were on the head. So the head wasn't shaped properly, and this is how it looked. And I think that was the fault that kind of messed up my head and everything. So this time I figured, you know what, I'm gonna go forged rods. So I went on eBay and I got the eBay special forged rods. I think these were like $250 for the set, as well as brand new rings, brand new bearings, and I did buy the main studs, the main stud bolts for this case, just because you can't really be reusing the main bolts all the time. I had the same crank, the caps, everything organized, laid out, the oil squirters, and I went ahead and this time I'm doing it all more organized, more clean, higher quality parts. So I took the D&J pistons, the same ones that came out of the car, and I went ahead and re-oiled and rebuilt them with the eBay ones, and I did actually weigh them all to the gram and made sure that I chose which one goes in the right place. And then I went to the junkyard and I saw this Miata there, and I took a picture of it. Here's kind of, it was fully caved in from the front, and I go in and I buy and take all the little bolts and loose ends that I would want. This was also a VVT one, so I got the head from that, and actually I still have it as a backup head just in case, because I'm kind of traumatized from what happened to mine. So I have this head now. Fuck. Okay. Alright, so by this point I'm kind of still in the process, and I'm building the whole engine on a chair because I really don't have a stand, so I'm building on this little fold out IKEA chair. So I take it, I put oil the crank, I put the crank on, I clean all the seals, I get the oil pump all prepped up, and the RTV on the oil pump is a nightmare. This is probably the most annoying part. This is the oil pin, and I go ahead and I start putting the oil pin on. I noticed that when you do this, when you put this cover on of the oil pan, it doesn't really work with the main stud bolt, so you kind of have to cut the oil pan here, or this protector underneath the oil pan to kind of get it to fit. And there's some stuff in the background I'll talk about in a little bit, which you guys are gonna like. But yeah, I put the new water pump on, the Gates one, and I put the head bolts back on, and head studs, I mean. And this is the new head. You can see how much more shiny it is. It doesn't have all the grooves everywhere. Yeah, I put the head back on properly with the new head gasket, and I bolted it all on, redid the cams and everything, and it all came out really good. And then I went ahead and I remember seeing someone selling some engines for really cheap. Like, I think I got both of these engines for like 50 to 100 bucks each. I was able to get them really cheap, and I picked them up and I brought them here. And the whole reasoning was I was kind of scared if something happened, and it was a pretty good price. I just saw them on OfferUp and I couldn't really pass on it, so I got both of these. And the story behind both of these is I wanted one. I just wanted one as a backup. I think this one's the VVT one. So this is another VVT one. And I went and I got it, I think for like 80 or 100 bucks. And when I was there, it was like this yard for towing vehicles and stuff. And this was like the owner just had them there. And he he was telling me how he has some other Miata parts, and he showed me this other engine. He's like, oh, you can have it for like $50. And it's like, nothing was really wrong with these, so I went ahead and I took both. And then later I just resold them, you know, give more people the availability of Miata parts. And then the head, I went ahead and I re-shimmed the whole head. I did the lash adjustments on the head, so I had to put the cams on and shim it and everything, and I had a paper and document in Excel, and I can make more videos on this if you guys want with all the details. And then here's what the engine looked like after it all back together again. And here I did happen to acquire a full Jackson Racing M45 supercharger kit, and I installed it in the engine to kind of see what it would look like and mock it all up outside the car. And I love how it looks. I still have it. I'm trying to sell it, but I like how it looks. And yeah, I put it on, and you can see the parts in the back of the engine. Here's the kit when I bought it, all the parts laid out.
And this should do it for this episode. Stay tuned for next week's episode. Purple Titk out.